This video is brought to you by Squarespace. When people talk about learning language, you always hear the same advice. Work on your reading skills, practice speaking every day, and build your vocabulary. And yes, those things are important, but here's the truth. They're not the only skills that are going to take you to this advanced level. There are other often overlooked skills that can make all the difference between plateauing at an intermediate stage and becoming really advanced. So today, I'm going to share 5 powerful skills that most learners don't even think about. But if you pay attention to them, you'll notice a huge shift in your progress. Okay, so first let's talk about pattern recognition. And I honestly think that that is probably one of the biggest things that influenced my language learning. Because the thing is, when people start learning a foreign language, they often focus on individual words. I have to learn this word, and that word. And then I have to learn how to combine all of these words to create a sentence. But my approach was always a little bit different. I wanted to focus on patterns because every single time I opened a language textbook, I could see those patterns because languages are full of them. Just think about it. How many times have you seen phrases like, I don't think so, or it's up to you? Instead of trying to translate all of these phrases to your native language or explain to yourself why they're structured this way, I think for me personally, it's just easier to memorize them. Like, that's the way it is in English. That's the way this pattern works. People say, I don't think so, instead of saying, I think not. If I turn on my Russian brain, honestly, the phrase, I don't think so, doesn't make any sense if I translate word by word. But I need to turn on my English brain. I need to start recognizing English-related patterns, instead of trying to look at the language from the Russian point of view, from all of the Russian patterns, because my native language is Russian. You know, you don't have to understand every single word separately. In fact, I think that it can actually slow down your progress. Instead, recognizing patterns is a very useful skill when it comes to language learning, and it will help you so much predict what's coming next. You're gonna start building a mountain where with every new step, it's gonna be easier and easier for you to memorize new words because you're already familiar with all of these patterns, and building new patterns is going to become much easier. The next skill is honestly very similar to pattern recognition, but still it's a little bit different. It's called chunking. So again, chunking is all about focusing on phrases instead of individual words. I think people use chunking more when it comes to memorizing vocabulary, whereas pattern recognition is just like a separate thing. Like, it's nice to learn how to recognize patterns in a new language because this way it will help you with everything. It will help you with vocabulary, it will help you with grammar, with every single aspect of language learning. The theory is if you focus on single words, you're going to be stuck trying to piece together a sentence, especially if you're a beginner. It's really hard creating a sentence with just a few words that you know. But if you learn full chunks, for example, can you give me a hand, or I don't know if I can make it, you will definitely sound more fluent. One trick that I personally use is I try to memorize useful chunks that can be recycled in many conversations, especially when it's something that's connected to me, to my personal vocabulary. I'm sure you guys remember that in my older videos, I talked a lot about building your own personalized vocabulary. Because if you're a lawyer, you have to know a lot of those law-related phrases in English, even if you're a beginner, because you have to be able to talk about your job. Whereas me, my job has nothing to do with law. So I can wait a little bit, you know, when I'm a beginner, I don't really need to memorize all of this new vocabulary right now. One example of chunking I can give you that is connected to my life right now is all about yoga, because I've been doing yoga for many years, but right now I'm really trying to become more advanced. And so the sentence I have here, the big chunk I have here is, I love flow style yoga because it challenges me physically. Yes, I know that a lot of people know the words flow and style, but can those people create this expression, flow style yoga? This is a great example of chunking. Instead of memorizing everything separately, I'm memorizing a sentence that is related to my life, to my hobbies, to something that I'm doing on a daily basis. And speaking of building resilience, experience, whether you're learning a new language or trying to launch a passion project, having the right tools to stay consistent is key. That's where today's sponsor, Squarespace, comes in. Squarespace is an all-in-one platform to build your online presence. Whether you're starting a blog, showcasing your portfolio, or even selling your own products. One of the things that I love about Squarespace is how incredibly easy it is to use, even if you're not tech savvy. You don't need to be a coding expert to have a professional website up and running in no time. Let me show you what features of Squarespace have helped me create an amazing website. First up, we have Design Intelligence. This feature takes their 2 decades of design experience and integrates it with cutting-edge AI to help you create a unique, visually stunning website without the hassle. It adapts to your preferences, ensuring that your website looks personalized and professional. If you're like me and offer consultations or services, Squarespace also has an integrated tool called Equity Scheduling, which makes it super easy to manage appointments and even accept payments, all from your website. If you're looking to grow your audience, Squarespace offers tools for running email campaigns to keep your subscribers engaged and drive more traffic to your content. If you're ready to take your passion project to the next level, head to squarespace.com/Veronika to start your free trial. And when you're ready to launch, use the code Veronika for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Trust me, it's one of the best investments you'll make to showcase your skills and launch your dream project. Now let's move on to emotional management, because let's be real. Learning language can be so freaking frustrating. And so this is where emotional management comes in. Yes, I feel like language learners really need a manager to manage their emotions. Obviously, I'm kidding here. You will have to become your own manager, your own teacher. You know, learning a language is a roller coaster of emotions. Here's a story for you guys. You all know that I'm learning Spanish right now. And so I am still constantly, well, almost constantly, okay, mixing up verb tenses. And I try so hard not to quit learning Spanish when I keep on making mistakes. So I completely understand you here. I mean, I've been in the same place with English as well. And how I personally manage emotions in those situations is I constantly remind myself that, Veronika, it's okay to make mistakes. You're still progressing, you're still doing something, you're making mistakes, and that's okay. It doesn't make you stupid. It doesn't mean that, you're not smart enough to learn a language. Just keep on going. Because the truth is, every polyglot will tell you the exact same thing. Those frustrating moments are a part of the process. And unfortunately, you can't really get rid of them. The trick is to see frustration not as failure, but as a sign that you're learning something new. If you feel stuck, take a break, switch to a fun activity, and then come back with fresh energy. I know progress isn't always obvious, but it is happening. I promise you, it is happening. If you're learning the language consistently, it is definitely happening. So please accept the fact that you will have to be okay with partial comprehension for some time. That's just the way it works. Now let's talk about learning to learn, because have you ever thought about how you learn best? And this is called metacognition, the ability to understand your own learning process. Because this is another secret of language learners. We're honestly not that good at studying. We're not perfect when it comes to studying the language. We just know what works best for us. What works best for me might not work best for you. And that's the reality. For example, I have a friend who's learning, 3, 4 languages right now. And every time he tries to cram new vocabulary through flashcards, it doesn't work. It doesn't stick. And then he realized that he learns a lot better through conversations and stories. And I'm honestly a completely different person. Yes, I'm sure I'm gonna learn a few phrases and words when I talk to a native speaker or when I have my Spanish class. But, I'm not gonna really memorize them. I really need to use flashcards to make sure I remember all of these words long term. But he is completely different. He hates flashcards. So instead of forcing flashcards, he started reading books and talking to native speakers. And the words stayed with him because they were tied to meaningful experiences. He discovered what worked best for him and he doubled down on that. And so learning to learn is all about experimenting with different methods. If one approach doesn't work for you, try another. The key is to be curious about your own process and keep keep on adjusting until you find what clicks. And that is exactly what I teach on my course Language Mastery Program. All about language learning, all about tailoring your language learning to you. So if you want to check out this course, my Language Mastery Program, you can do so by clicking the link in the description. And finally, let's talk about silence and why in fact it's not scary at all. I think becoming comfortable with pauses in conversations to find the right words is going to help you a lot, because a lot of people feel embarrassed and shy when they have to take a moment to think. But allowing yourself to think through a sentence instead of rushing to speak is, I think, so much better. A lot of language learners think that it's so awkward to pause to think of the right word, and honestly, in that moment your brain just freezes. It often feels like forever, but the reality is silence is not scary. In fact, native speakers pause all the time, literally all the time. Just think about it. How often do you hear people say, let me think about it, or what was I saying? Literally all the time. Native speakers use these expressions all the time because they want to make sure they think through their sentences. And so eventually, instead of putting all of this pressure on myself, I learned that it's okay to pause. It's okay to be silent. Instead of rushing to speak perfectly and then beating yourself up because you can't speak perfectly because perfection doesn't exist, how about you just take a second to think? Or even use filler words like let me see or give me a moment. So I think it's going to be it for today's video. If you liked it, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you want to create your own website, make sure to use Squarespace. You can check them out by using my link in the description. If you want to create your own monthly language learning plan, I highly recommend watching this video right here. Just click right here and keep on watching.